Okay, it looks like we've gotten a good number who have gotten in. So if everybody can hold on, we're going to go ahead and get started. And just again, want to welcome everybody. Thank you for being a part of this call. As I've said in prior calls with the nonprofit community, they are a very important component to our Kansas economy, to your local communities. And so we want to make sure we know and recognize that not only are nonprofits helping fill those social needs, but they're also big employers in our communities. And we know you're going to have issues very similar to for-profit companies. One of those is our is our unemployment insurance safety net. It's a very important part of collectively what the business community does to help when there are layoffs, unanticipated layoffs. And so with that, we know that there is going to be some cost to that. So we wanted to bring in the Department of Labor and kind of talk about what is being done at the state level, but as well as the federal level with the CARE Act. But before we introduce our presenters, I'd like to thank the Olathe Chamber of Commerce for hosting us on this Zoom meeting, but specifically Susie Carson, who's assisting today. She's facilitating the call with us. So thank you so much, Olathe Chamber and Susie. It's partnerships like this that I know are going to get us Kansans through this crisis and difficult times we're in. Just a few housekeeping items. All of the mics have been muted except for the speakers and the host. This will help us facilitate the most efficient meeting. But don't worry, we do have the chat function for questions to be asked. In addition to those that were submitted prior to this call today, we've also opened up the chat. So all questions, we will try to get through them within our time frame. If for some reason we cannot get through your question, don't worry, I'll be sure to work with Laurel and make sure that we get all of that information to you. Also, the Kansas Nonprofit Service is recording, the webinar is being recorded and we'll be sure to send that out afterwards. In addition, the Nonprofit Chamber of Service is sending out a questionnaire wanting to look at what the needs are for nonprofits throughout Kansas. That will be part of the follow-up that will come in your email. And if you have some time to take that survey, that's going to provide important feedback for us to share with our policymakers, our local community leaders, to help make sure we're providing the resources our nonprofit community needs. And finally, if there are any future topics that you feel would be relevant or important for the nonprofit community, please be sure to share that information with me. I will do my best to try to coordinate additional training sessions through webinars to provide that resource for you. So now let's get started with our presentation. It's my pleasure to have Laurel Searles, the Unemployment Insurance Director for the Kansas Department of Labor, as well as Unemployment Tax Chief Nicole Struckhoff, for a discussion on Kansas nonprofits' unemployment insurance and the impact that the CARES Act will have, as well as any future liability that nonprofits might see. So with no more ado, I would like to turn it over. Laurel, do you want to start?
Yes, thank you, Natalie. So as Natalie said, I'm Laurel Klein Searles. I'm the Director of Unemployment Insurance with the Kansas Department of Labor. I want to thank you all for this opportunity today to talk to you about what's going on in the world of unemployment insurance. With the COVID-19 crisis, unemployment has become more important than ever. We're seeing historic numbers that we never anticipated. And so along with that comes some challenges with the Department of Labor. We also have new legislation passed by the Kansas legislature along with the federal legislature that we're trying to implement. So that's going to create a new landscape for all of us. I very much appreciate the nonprofit industry. I actually began my legal career working for a nonprofit, the Kansas Coalition Against Sexual and Domestic Violence. The executive director is on here now, so it's good to see her on here. But through those years of working for the coalition and working with their member programs across the state of Kansas, I understand the importance of our nonprofits and also many of the challenges that nonprofits face. So I want to be able to work together with you to help you get through this crisis. At this point, I am going to turn it over to Nicole to talk through her PowerPoint. I would just like to acknowledge Nicole. She is a Wonder Woman. She is, excuse me, virtually single-handedly running our tax department as we've transitioned most of her staff over to work in benefits to get benefits out to claimants. So she's the one behind the scenes answering many of the employers' questions, keeping things up and running, and also working to implement a key piece of the CARES Act, which she's going to discuss with you. So with no further ado, I'll turn it over to Nicole.
Thank you. Okay, I want to make sure, is my screen showing the Kansas Department of Labor unemployment taxes? Okay. I am not as familiar with the Zoom, so I want to make sure. Okay, Kansas Department of Labor, and we're hopefully going to be able to help you guys understand. So first off, the main direction is talking about the reimbursement employers, and those employers are consisted of nonprofits, 501c3s, government entities, and federally recognized Indian tribes. You guys would have selected the reimbursing payment option. The reimbursing method, currently you report your quarterly wage reports and you pay no tax on those at the quarter. So you're filing your wage reports, but you're not paying any tax in. Because the method requires the employer to reimburse the fund at 100% for any benefits paid to their former employees. Also with the reimbursing method, currently there is a surety bond or escrow agreement that you would have had to provide to the state that is required. The CARES Act section, the 2103, provides for transfers to a state's account in the unemployment trust fund from a federal unemployment account during a certain period for the purpose of providing partial reimbursements. So the applicable period is March 13th to December 31st, 2020. So what this is meaning is that reimbursing employers who have elected the reimbursing payment option for 2020 are going to be reimbursed for 50% of the benefits paid. And it's going to be between the March 13th date and December 31st. These partial reimbursements apply to all statement charges made during this time period, even if the unemployment individual is not unemployed as a result of COVID-19. So currently we're working on our reimbursing statements. The first quarter statements have not been mailed out yet because we are trying to implement and get the CARES Act applied to them. So the statement will show the following line items. We're going to show the full amount of the charge, the CARES Act 50% reimbursing amount, and then you'll have the total due, which will reflect the CARES Act. So here's kind of an example of what we have been drafting up, and it's going to be a statement that shows the total charge, and then you will see the line item for the CARES Act, the 50% reimbursement, and then you'll have the total that you will be charged at the bottom of the statement. Now, many of you are aware and some are not aware, but you do have the option to change your reimbursing payment option. So if you've been a reimbursing employer for a minimum of 4 calendar years, then you would have the option to change your payment. In November, you would have to submit a written request to us. And those that are nonprofits, your option would be to be a contributing employer. Those that are government entities, you could also change to be a rated governmental entity. So you would have the choice to write a written request in for the year 2021 to become a contributing employer. A contributing employer would be a new industry rate of 2.7%. And of that 2.7%, you would be taxed on the taxable wage base of $14,000. So something to keep in mind for the following year, if you feel that the reimbursing payment option is not going to be good for you anymore due to continued filing of unemployment. So something to keep in mind that you would have the option to elect a different payment option for the next year. We are still, for employers, we are still requiring the quarterly wage reports to be filed. We are still conducting business as normal. So the first quarter is still being due April 30th and so on. We've had many questions regarding the employer notices, the size. They came in 44, 45. I just want you to know that if you are signed up for sides, it is electronic. You can also go through your Kansas employer portal, logging in at www.kansasemployer.gov. Log in like you would if you file your quarterly wage reports. There will be the sides information. You would log in. Those who are already signed up for sides, you are getting an email. Many have sent us questions. Is the email valid? Yes. If the email looks something to like this, if it says sides e-response, it is a valid email. And yes, that is your link to get your KBIN 44 notices. I also have lots of employers reaching out saying I've received multiple notices. If an individual is filing several times thinking their application is not being submitted, you're going to receive duplicate KBIN 4445 notices. I would request that if you have already sent in the original, you can ignore the others. You are going to still receive a paper KBIN 43. It's the potential charge letters. These are just informational. You do not need to do anything with them. Also, claimants receive a KBIN 41, which is a monetary determination, which shows their eligibility, but does not automatically entitle them to benefits. So those employers who are reaching out saying their claimant received a letter, but then maybe it is now being denied. It's the first letter is their eligibility, but does not entitle them yet to benefits. So I wanted to kind of clear up on that. Possibly could have went over that pretty fast. So if you guys have any other questions, we also are working a couple email boxes, but one that I know you would get an answer to if you use the kdol.uitax@ks.gov. That email will be, is worked, and we are caught up on it. So that is also a good thing. I do not have our employer phone lines open because, as Laurel said before, all of my tax staff has been trained now to take intake or calls with the call center. So I encourage you all to use the UI tax email box.
Thank you, Nicole. So yes, that I would encourage all employers to utilize the tax box. That's going to be the fastest way to get a response from the Department of Labor for those specific employer questions. There are a few other kind of programs that I wanted to go over and give you updates on some of our other kind of CARES Act legislation. So first of all, employers want you to know about the filing by spreadsheet option that is available to you. We've had many of you engage in that process with us already, and we want to thank you for it. To get through this crisis, we're all going to have to work together, and by filing a spreadsheet, that is one way that the employer community can engage with us at the Department of Labor. So that allows you to go into your employer portal that Nicole already referenced in her presentation, to log in there, click on File by Spreadsheet, and then you can submit the initial application for all of your employees that are in need of unemployment insurance benefits. This saves you time because you don't have to respond to multiple notices and requests from information from us. Saves the claimant time because they don't have to submit the initial application, and it saves us time because we have everything at once and can process it in a more streamlined manner. So thank you to all the employers that have already engaged in that process. We also have a program called the Shared Work Program, which is a layoff aversion tool. Through that program, you can reduce a group of affected employees' hours by 20 to 40%. Those employees will still be able to receive an unemployment insurance benefit while continuing to work for you on a reduced schedule. So again, that's another excellent tool that's available to our employer community. And you can apply for shared work again through the employer portal, or both. We have put up links to both filing by spreadsheet and shared work at www.getkansasbenefits.gov, along with on the employer site. So those are two great options that are available for employers. We're seeing a lot of questions about federal legislation and the state legislation that was passed. So as many of you may know, our unemployment insurance rate in the state of Kansas was 16 weeks, or the amount of time period that benefits could be paid was tied to the unemployment insurance rate, and it was at 16 weeks because we were at historically low unemployment insurance levels. The Kansas legislature acted right at the start of the COVID crisis to extend that out to 26 weeks. We have implemented that extension through our IT programming as of this week. This is only for claims that were filed on or after January 1st, 2020. So if you have employees that have had started their benefit year back in October or December, they would not be eligible for the 26 weeks. They would only be eligible for the 16 weeks. For those who are eligible, who filed in 2020, they do not have to take any extra steps. They should be receiving monetary determinations in the mail at any time. In fact, many of you may have received duplicate employer notices in the mail regarding these claims that were filed earlier within the year that you've already responded to. Please just ignore those. We had to recalculate the total benefit amount and do a new monetary determination for all of those individuals moving from 16 to 26 weeks, which is the reason for the additional mailings. So that's what's going on with state legislation. Additionally, the legislature acted to make the waiting week payable on the third consecutive week of unemployment insurance benefits. And the governor actually waived the waiting week through an executive order for claims related to COVID-19. We have our IT team. I don't know if you've seen it in the news. We're working on an old mainframe system that connects with a lot of other systems, and it's a very complicated system. They have struggled to implement the waiver of the waiting week. But as of now, as of earlier this week, we had paid out all waiting weeks, but for 525, and we are looking for ways to correct that so that we make sure that all eligible waiting weeks are paid out. Additionally, then the CARES Act, Nicole talked about the tax relief for nonprofits and governmental employers, which is huge, and we appreciate Congress providing that relief. The other provisions that have really sparked a lot of interest are related to the additional $600 per week that will be added on top of claimants' weekly benefit amounts. That goes for if a claimant is eligible for any sort of unemployment insurance benefit, then they will receive that additional $600 on top of their weekly benefit amount. And that includes those that are participating in that shared work program. So that's an excellent tool for those of you that are looking for creative ways to respond to the economic hardships you're facing, along with the concerns about keeping your employees' health and safety. I'm struggling with that as well. How do I run this major division of the Department of Labor while ensuring that my employees are safe and healthy? So the shared work program is an excellent option, and $600 will come on top of that. I did see a chat that came in that asked if the $600 is available to part-time employees, and yes, it is. If you even receive $1 in unemployment insurance benefits, you get the additional $600 on top of that. So there should be, our IT team has been working on that as well. There should be an announcement regarding when exactly that $600 will be implemented coming out this afternoon. I would encourage you to watch the governor's press conference at 2 o'clock for more information on that. There's also a brand new program that was established, the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program, that provides unemployment insurance benefits to those that are self-employed, gig workers, etc. It's again, a completely new program. Our IT team is creating that platform to be able to process those claims and get those benefits out to people as soon as possible. The one thing that I can tell you is that if you know someone that may be eligible for this program, I would ask you to have them go and file for unemployment insurance benefits, traditional unemployment insurance benefits, as that's the first requirement to receive the PUA, is what these benefits are called. First requirement to receive PUA is to ensure that you are not monetarily entitled to any unemployment insurance benefits. So important to know that there is something that you can do right now, even though the program is not up and running, is you can go and apply for regular unemployment insurance benefits. So there's also an additional 13-week extension through the federal government for unemployment insurance benefits that we have not yet implemented, but we're working on that as well. So there's a lot going on at the Kansas Department of Labor, in addition to just the enormous amount of claims that we are seeing. Certainly never seen this claims volume before in our history. And so it's keeping us very busy. As I've alluded to, we have done a number of things. We've first brought back employees that were previously in the intake division to work back in intake. Those that we had promoted from within, we brought them back and immediately doubled the number of employees we had. And then we stole some of Nicole's employees, got them trained on how to work in the intake division, and they've been working in there. And then the other thing that we did was to establish, with the help of the governor, Department of Agriculture, and Department of Commerce, a triage contact center where you go to first, and they will be able to answer some of just your basic questions about unemployment insurance benefits. So I want to try, let's see if I can manage to share my screen and show you the unemployment insurance weekly review. So, all right, can all of you see the unemployment insurance weekly review? Or are you looking at my face? My face. Okay. Oh, there it is. Okay, so here is the unemployment insurance weekly review that will show you the week ending April 18th of 2020. We had 31,849 initial claims, which is similar to what we saw last week with about 30,786 initial claims. The most astonishing number here is the continued claims. Initial claims are when you file your initial application for unemployment insurance benefits. That number peaked, I believe, the week before at over 55,000 initial claims being filed that week. Continuing claims are the weekly claims that you file asking, it's basically you asking to be paid for benefits. So you're required to file a weekly claim. So we had 92,969 people filing those continued claims this last week. If you look at a year ago, we had 7,633. So that is an enormous jump. You see over the year, 1,113%. Our initial claims are 2,500, over 2,500% increase for initial claims. And again, that is a drop in where we were before. You can see kind of the graph of how we were on a great path. And then all of a sudden, you can see when COVID hit and we just jumped up. And this is a rolling average that you see there. So all of this information, this breakdown, the unemployment insurance weekly review is available every week on our website, the KDOL website, www.dol.ks.gov. It's available there. It's called the Unemployment Insurance Weekly Review. And so you can go there. We update it every Tuesday with the newest numbers from the state of Kansas to kind of track what's going on within the state. So that was the information that Nicole and I wanted to share. I think the most valuable part of these types of platforms is the ability to answer the questions that you have personally. So we'd love to do some of that right now. Let me see, I have access to the chat. So feel free to chat the questions in and Nicole and I will respond. So the first one is, does the 50% under the CARES Act apply to employers with over 500 employees? And I'm assuming you're talking about the 50% tax relief for nonprofits and governmental employers. Nicole, do you want to take that?
Sure, and yes, it doesn't have a employee requirement. It just, as long as you're a reimbursing employer with the reimbursing payment option, then yes, the 50% will apply to your statement. And then the next one I know says, will the presentation be available? And I can email Natalie Bright the updated presentation, and yes, she can definitely send that out.
Okay, and I already answered, will the $600 also apply to part-time employees? And that is yes. So regardless of whether or not you're on the shared work program, I would encourage you to consider the shared work program if you're in a situation where you're facing potential layoffs, because it is a great layoff aversion tool. If you're in this shared work program, if you're not, if you just have employees whose hours you've reduced to the point where their earnings are less than their weekly benefit amount, which is going to be identified on their monetary determination that we've talked about a couple of times. It's going to be between $124 a week, $122 and $488 per week at this time in the state of Kansas. There will be the additional $600 available to those individuals as well. And that goes, the additional $600 goes through July 31st of 2020. Next question from Amanda, will the $600 be covered completely by the federal government? Yes, it will be. It's completely federally funded. So the $600 is not going to impact your tax rates. It's not going to be something that you're responsible for reimbursing. It's not something that the state of Kansas is responsible for paying. The federal government is going to be paying those funds out. Next question from Angie is, can a person with a green card work visa qualify for unemployment insurance benefits? Yes, they potentially could. So as long as you're authorized to work within the United States, you may be able to receive unemployment insurance benefits. You will have to send in that documentation to the Department of Labor. That's one of the biggest challenges, it seems, is just getting that documentation sent to us. We'll ask you to complete an alien verification form and submit that with all necessary documentation to us. Nicole, is there anything else you want to add there?
No.
Okay. All right. Great info and updates I need to share with others in my organization. Where can I direct them to view this Zoom meeting after? Natalie, do you have the answer to that question?
Yes, we'll be sending the recording out to everyone. So they'll get it in their post-conference or post-call information.
Perfect. Thanks, Natalie. Next is from Jennifer. Recognizing that the recent passage of the CARES Act provided federal funding for 50% of unemployment claims related to COVID-19 for self-insured nonprofits, does the state plan to offer any financial relief other than 50% that is still owed? At this point, no, there is nothing available beyond that 50% relief. Additionally, there's no sort of tax relief that's been passed for contributing employers. This is something that it seems like every time I do one of these calls, I say, this is not the Kansas Department of Labor. This is Laurel Searles talking right now. And I would encourage you to speak to your representatives and ask for that tax relief. I know that at the federal level, they're still working on coronavirus relief type packages. And my personal belief is that all employers should be entitled to some sort of tax relief in these situations. You have done nothing to bring on this situation. And so you're already dealing with the economic consequences. I think Congress should step up and provide tax relief, more tax relief to the nonprofit employers, more tax relief to our contributing employers, so we can help get through this crisis and maintain our unemployment insurance trust fund so it continues to be there for the future. Again, that's Laurel Klein Searles. Every time I do have a legislator's ear, I do tell them I need more tax relief for my employers within the state of Kansas. I first tell them I need a modernized UI system so that I can more effectively serve the citizens of the state of Kansas. And then my second ask is for tax relief for the employers. So that's something that we are advocating for at the Department of Labor, and I would encourage you all to use your voices and advocate for that as well. Obviously, you have great representation with Natalie, who is such a great advocate for all employers and everyone that she works with as well. So hopefully we can see some progress on this. I can let you know for the contributing employers, your tax rates aren't going to be impacted until 2021. And again, hoping to see some tax relief before then. but we're at the behest of Congress at this point. So does the 50% reimbursement apply to base period claims? Nicole, that's a Nicole question.
Let me, I was hoping it would switch over to my face, but maybe not. So I do want to comment real quick on Laurel on the top piece that she was talking about. Those employers contributing and reimbursing if you guys are having issues and can't get and make the payments for first quarter, or even the reimbursement. Like I said, the reimbursing statements haven't even been mailed out yet, but we are going to work with and waive interest for that first quarter also, and not apply penalties either for that first quarter. And we can work with you on that too. The other question regarding the 50% applied to base period, not quite sure what you're asking, but it's just the period between March, was it
March 13th or 20th?
Yes, thank you. March 13th to the 31st, I believe is what, 13th through December 31st. So that is what it's actually going to be programmed in our system to look for any charges to your account between that period, and you will get the 50% reimbursement off of that.
Okay. Next question is for small nonprofits. Is there any immediate grant money available to help cover overhead not related to employees, rent, utilities, etc.? So at the Kansas Department of Labor, we do not have any grants available for you. I know that there are a number of different programs available that are administered through like the Small Business Association, Department of Commerce, and others. I do not have any information on those programs. Natalie, is that anything that you know?
It's something we can communicate out to them. I know there's a lot of foundations that are looking to assist with that. There are some of the government programs that pass, like the Paycheck Protection, that they can access to help with some of those costs.
So great. So Natalie will share some of that information with you. I know that there are programs out there available, and hopefully they can be useful to you. Next question is, what is the date that the $600 supplemental payments will kick in? It will be very soon. We are in the final stages of testing. I would expect an announcement at 2 o'clock today for the definitive date. So I lost the question feed here. For small nonprofits, is there immediate grant? That was the same question that I just read about grant money. And again, Natalie will get some information out to you. Will anyone be able to speak on the potential of more funds being opened up for PPP? Again, that's not a program that we administer at the Department of Labor. It's through the Small Business Association. That's another one that I hope to see more funding coming to in the future. I don't have any immediate update on the program. Natalie, do you?
It's currently in the package that the House will consider, hopefully early next week is what I'm hearing, so that I can get that passed and get the money processed out for those programs.
So another opportunity for us to use our voice and advocate to our legislators that we need this relief for our nonprofits and small businesses in the state of Kansas. If an employee is called back to work after reopening, can they refuse and keep collecting UI benefits? So one of the first things that I learned in law school is that the answer is always, it depends. So I'm gonna let you know the answer is, it depends. We are going to have to look at a number of different circumstances. So if traditionally under unemployment insurance law, if an employee is offered work and they refuse that work, they will be disqualified for unemployment insurance benefits. The key thing that we have to look here at is whether or not it's suitable work. So if you are calling back an employee to work and they worked in that position before, I'm going to assume that they have the suitable education, experience, and training to be able to do that position because they have worked in it before. For sake of argument, I'm going to presume that you're offering them the same pay and benefits that they were making before. New factors that we have to consider in whether or not this is suitable work is looking at the health and safety measures that are in place. So are you taking appropriate health and safety measures to protect your employees in the workplace? Additionally, then we would look at other factors like, is this someone who's high risk, or are they living with someone who's high risk? That may or may not impact their ability to collect unemployment insurance benefits. The U.S. Department of Labor has asked us to be more lenient with some of these eligibility requirements when it comes to COVID-19. If you have an employee who is completely healthy, has no health concerns, you are taking appropriate safety measures in the workplace, and they refuse to come back to work, then they should be disqualified for unemployment insurance benefits. We would ask that you report that job refusal to us at the Department of Labor on the website, www.getkansasbenefits.gov. I believe there is a job refusal form in our forms section that you could complete and send in. You could also just send an email to that email box that Nicole put up there before, and she would forward it over to our adjudications department to be able to investigate that job refusal. Again, that was kdol.uytax@ks.gov. It is in the presentation, which Natalie is going to be sending out after. So if you're faced with that situation, you can send an email to us. We can investigate to determine whether or not that person should be disqualified, which, again, if it's somebody that's completely healthy with no health concerns and you're doing everything that you should be doing as an employer, they will likely be disqualified for benefits under those circumstances. But if there are some extraordinary circumstances at play, they may be able to continue receiving unemployment insurance benefits. So would KDOL consider significantly delaying the reimbursement period and not penalizing these self-insured organizations for late payment of reports? Yeah, you've got me on the spot here. I'm willing to consider it. I'm not going to say I'm going to do it, but it's something we are actively talking about, how we best respond to employers in this situation. As Nicole said, we've already decided, although we haven't publicly put this out in the media or anything, that we are not going to charge penalties and interest up to a certain point on late payments for first quarter of 2020. So that's the first thing we're doing. Certainly willing to consider limiting penalization of the self-insured organizations for late payments and reports as well. So that's something that Nicole and I will discuss with Secretary Garcia after the fact, after we conclude this meeting. And then hopefully, we are trying to figure out what we're going to do. We're looking to Congress to hopefully provide additional tax relief before we take too many internal steps. Because we don't want to go one direction and then have Congress say that we need to go in a completely different direction. So these are ongoing conversations that we have. So I appreciate your feedback. I think that's a very good point. Would KDOL consider only billing the nonprofits for 50% of the claim cost up front? Oh yeah, absolutely. That is what we're doing. So we're only going to bill you for 50% of the claims cost up front. So for sure, I can tell you that when you receive your reimbursing statement, Nicole showed the sample of what we're going to be sending out to you. It's going to have the 50% deduction for the Federal CARES Act. We'll just get that money directly from the federal government to reimburse our trust fund. You will not be responsible for paying any of that 50% of those costs up front. You'll just have to pay half. Okay, from Angie, we are seeing that some of our laid off full-time staff were denied for unemployment. Are there basic guidelines we could share with them to know if our staff should apply or not? We're also seeing that some part-time staff received, but others didn't when they've worked here longer and or more hours. So unemployment is actually a very complicated area of law with a lot of different nuances. So the first thing you have to do is to be monetarily entitled for benefits. Then you can't be disqualified for benefits, and then you have to be eligible on a weekly basis in order to receive benefits. So we look at all of those things, and there are a number of different reasons that you could be found disqualified for benefits, and there are a number of different reasons that you could be found ineligible for benefits. So it really varies on a case-by-case basis whether some of your staff are going to be receiving benefits or not. What we are encouraging folks to do, if they have a decision that they disagree with, you always have the opportunity to appeal that determination. To appeal the determination, you need to send in a written letter of appeal to the Office of Appeals at 401 Southwest Topeka Boulevard, Topeka, Kansas, 66603, with the claimant's name, social security number if you have it, and a brief reason as to why you disagree with the decision. So whether you're a claimant or an employer, you have the opportunity to appeal. That office has been shut down as the governor did order all non-essential employees not to work within the state of Kansas. We could not figure out a way to get that particular office to be able to work from home. They have a portion of those employees have returned to work to start processing those appeals. Even though the office was shut down, we never stopped accepting appeals. So you're still always able to submit that appeal. Right now, they're processing the appeals that they received while they were shut down, working on scheduling hearings. We'll have a limited number of hearings back up and running next week. And then we are working on staffing that department back up and making sure that we can get those folks working in a healthy and safe manner. So I don't have, without knowing the specifics of the case, I can't tell you, I feel like everyone should apply and just let us make that determination about whether or not they can receive benefits. And then if they disagree with that determination, or if you as the employer disagree with that determination, appeal.
And I will chime in.
All right,
too.
just to clarify, sure, go ahead, Nicole.
Also, employers, it could help if you feel like the statement made a comment that, well, my employee has worked for years for me. Check your quarterly wage reports and make sure that the social security number that you guys filed that individual is correct. And that I think that's one of the biggest things we're finding. Employers are reaching out, this person should have been eligible, and we're finding that on the quarterly wage report, 2 numbers were transposed or 1 digit was miskeyed. So if you can let us know if the wage reports are incorrect and you filed it mistakenly under the wrong social, you can go online and you can actually make the adjustment online through the employer portal. That would help us out, but then you do need to email that UI tax box so we can do a redetermination on that correct social. So I do want you guys to look. That would help us and save us some time also in determining if where the social is wrong at.
So thank you, Nicole. Next question is from Kathy, and it's about the shared work program. She asked if it's only available to employees who are earning less than their weekly benefit amount. So the shared work program has very specific provisions around it. As an employer, you have to apply for the shared work program and submit a plan. You're required to reduce a group of affected employees' work hours by 20 to 40%. Those are the requirements around it. Then they'll receive a partial unemployment insurance benefits, and at this time they would be able to receive that additional $600 on top. So there are a lot of kind of moving variables around the affected unit. It has to impact 10% of the employees within that affected unit, and then the reduction in hours has to be 20 to 40%. There's more information available about the shared work program on our website, again, either through the www.getkansasbenefits.gov or through the employer portal that you're used to going to. A lot of good information. I'm also have a handout, a flyer that I'm going to send to Natalie after this program that she can share with all of you. It's an infographic that's really good. Gives more details about the shared work program. And so encourage you to check out those resources for more details. Does the next question from Mary Beth is, does the potential charge shown on the initial notice already include the 50% reimbursement, or is it the full amount? So it will show that well, we're not talking about potential charges. We're talking about reimbursing employers, and that reimbursing employer statement will show the 50% reimbursement. Correct, Nicole?
Yes, so first quarter 2020 reimbursing statement charges have not been mailed out, but when they are mailed out, we will have the 50% reimbursement taken out, and so you will be billed pretty much that 50%, the other 50%.
Real quick, Nicole, can I ask a question real quick? For
Go for it.
clarification, will that only be for those starting March 13th? Because there could be information from prior claims, correct?
Correct. So the statements will get sent out with all charges that are related to the first quarter of 2020, but the 50% reimbursement will only take into effect those charges that started March 13th to current.
Okay. Next message is just a thank you and a request for Natalie to talk about some different options that are available. I think that is the last chat that I'm seeing. So if anyone else has any other questions, feel free to chat them in.
Hey, Laurel, I had a couple that were submitted through registration. You've touched a lot of them. I think one is you talked about the duplicate applications and those types of things.
Yes.
I think you guys gave great information for them to check the information, make sure that they contact you through that. Is it www, or no, it's the email address.
Yes, kdol.uitax@ks.gov. And I do want you all to know that you will be getting duplicates in the mail this week or early next week for all those claims that we reran from 16 weeks to 26 weeks. You can ignore those notices if you've already responded. It was a claim from January, February, March, and you've already responded. You can ignore those notices that are going out. It's just part of we have no way of stopping the sides notices from going out. We were trying to get those, the hard copy notices pulled from the mail, but I know that we didn't get all of them pulled from the mail. So be on the lookout for those. And then when you find them, you can disregard them.
Good. We did have somebody who said that they've had people filing for back as many as 2 years back, and they wanted some explanation of why they would be doing that. Specifically, please explain why you're getting unemployment claims from people who quit us to take another job, and then they're getting furloughed and requesting funds from them. On the same page, why are some going far back as 2 years? What's the timeline to submit the request?
Yeah, so with unemployment insurance benefits, to entitle the claim, to monetarily entitle the claim, we look back at that individual's base period, which is the first 4 completed 5 quarters, right? So we're in quarter number 6. We don't look at quarter number 5. We look at the 4 quarters before that to monetarily entitle the claim. And so we're going back and looking at those wages to monetarily entitle that, and then you are still subject, if you're in that time frame, which is known as the base period, you're still subject to charging during that time period. You're not going to be charged for the full amount of that individual's unemployment insurance benefits. Your potential charge is going to be based off of the percentage, like the time period. Say they left you at that time period and they only worked for you for 1 week during that period. So your potential charge is going to be quite low. It should say on your employer notice what your potential charge is going to be. So you can look there and see what it is. It may, I've seen them as very, very low. So that's why we go back and look at that. It is important to respond to those notices. That would be an employer notice. It looks the same. These employer notices look the same, whether you're a last employer. Whether or not that individual is disqualified for benefits is going to be based upon their separation from their last employer, not from you. Whether or not you're charged for those benefits, we do look at that separation. So you would need to fill that out. If somebody left work for you to accept a better job, fill that out, provide that information, then that should be a non-charge to your account. So important to respond to those employer notices for the base period employer notices so that we can make sure that you are not being charged for benefits that you should not be charged for. The default in Kansas is an employer is charged unless they show that the employee was discharged for misconduct or gross misconduct connected with the work, or that the individual quit without good cause attributable to the employer. And then there's also a provision that allows for non-charge for part-time employment.
We had a question. Do you know if in any of the federal legislation, are there tax credits for these payments that are being made or going to be charged to them? I wasn't aware of any in regards to specifically unemployment, but wanted to know if either you or Nicole were aware of any other tax credits available through the federal stimulus packages.
No, I am not aware of any additional tax credits. Nicole, are you?
No.
No, not at this time.
And then the last one, kind of a similar, the duplicates of requests coming electronically for current and past employees. I think you answered that greatly to make sure. Also filing by spreadsheet helps take care of a lot of that.
Yes.
And you also said on behalf of an employee, an employer can also file that appeal, correct? If somebody was denied, can they file on behalf of their employee they think is entitled?
So that's a tricky one. Usually, Office of Appeals is going to look for the party in which the adverse decision was filed. So we would encourage the claimant to file. I think the employer could also offer the claimant a letter of support. The claimant would need to file that appeal, but the employer could certainly provide a letter of support. Right now, I'm also having the Office of Appeals to kind of streamline processes, look at the potential for redetermination of some of those issues so that we don't have to go to appeal hearing. If we have the employer and the claimant agreeing that some information was wrong, then certainly that's something that we would look at for redetermination. If you guys, again, have specific cases that you're concerned about, you feel free to use that email box that Nicole provided, kdol.uitax@ks.gov. And then if Nicole can't take care of it personally, she will get it to someone in the appropriate department to give it an additional look.
And I saw there were a couple more questions that came in. We have just a few more minutes. Do you mind answering the follow-up is one that came in from Chad Knight? If you could answer that one. He was a little confused.
Yes. Okay. So Chad said, I guess I'm confused is the last question and what I said. How would we be responsible for someone who worked for us in July who took a job with another company and was furloughed, but now they're trying to get unemployment insurance from us? This doesn't make sense. So again, we look back at the base period, and as long as you're in the base period for that employee, benefits are potentially chargeable to you. So we look at the claimant's employment history, not just their last employer. But again, if they left you, if they quit without good cause, you would fill out the employer notice, indicate that, and it would be a non-charge to your account. So just please respond to that employer notice for those employees that did work in the base period and have moved on to other things. They've quit without any good cause, then certainly fill that out on the employer notice so that you can get a non-charge. I did see a couple of other questions up here. One I get a lot, if we have someone who, we get the Kansas versus Missouri question. So we know that there's a lot of people, living in Missouri, working in Kansas, working in and vice versa, and they may travel back and forth across state lines. When you have worked in both states in the base period, you have the option of choosing which state you want to file for benefits in. So it is where you worked, not where you lived. And if you've worked in both states, then you can apply in either or state, but you only get to apply in one. So choose carefully. Kansas has a higher, I believe Kansas has a higher weekly benefit amount. So typically people do choose Kansas. Missouri does have a modernized UI system so that they are able to get some of these federal programs, dollars paid out a little more quickly than we are in Kansas. So that may be an advantage to file in Missouri. Very jealous of my counterparts in Missouri and their beautiful system, trying to get it in Kansas as well. So are the employees that receive unemployment told that they will be responsible for taxes on it at the end of the year and can have taxes taken out of it? Yes, they are. So there is an option for withholding of taxes from your unemployment insurance benefits that appears when you file your claim. If you choose not to have taxes withheld, you can change your mind, fill out a form, and have taxes withheld later. We will send 1099-Gs out in January of next year for anyone who receives unemployment insurance benefits from us. All right. Hopefully I was able to answer Chad's question.
He said bingo, so you did.
Okay. All right. And we got Kansas, Missouri. All right. Perfect. So I think I got all the questions and we're almost right at time, Natalie.
Yes, Laurel and Nicole, thank you so much. I've seen lots of people post thank you, the helpful information, how great it's been. You guys both did a great job. You're obviously very versed in what you're doing, and you've put a lot of extra time in these last few days or last few weeks. Probably seems like a short period of time though, and how quickly it's going and how much you've done. So thank you. We will continue to communicate information. So if things come out that you'd like for us to share through our nonprofit network, please feel free to send that to me and I'll make sure it gets out to the community. Also, those of you on the call, again, if you missed it in the beginning, we did record this session. It will be sent out with a post follow-up email. We'll have the slides as well as the additional handouts that Laurel suggested that she has, we share, and we'll also have all the important addresses that they suggested in the PowerPoint. So again, thank you so much. We appreciate the participation. Nonprofit community, hang in there. We're gonna get through this together. We will definitely get to the other side. We're just gonna have a little bit of hardship to get through it. So thanks everybody, have a great day.